in terms of shopping, it's something you do a lot more when you're younger and trying to establish a clientele. It was a lot different also back when I started out. Actually, A&R people had the ability to sign artists, which they don't much have anymore. There were many more signings going on, and there was much more of an active, A&R community. The A&R function, I've sort of noticed as I've kind of observed it, is more directed. I mean, realistically, at white rock bands. I mean, and these sort of like critics all sit around and talk about them. The A&R function, the A&R people are not so much like in hip hop or R&B. Those tend to come in from other places, not from lawyers shopping them. So as hip hop becomes more prevalent, the shopping becomes less. As rock becomes less prevalent, the shopping becomes less. As people get signed less, shopping becomes less. And as you get older, like me, you just can't put up with it anymore. You can't put up with sending out 10 CDs and nobody responding, and the artist calling you up and saying what's going on, and the guy hasn't listened to it. It's a very frustrating process, and ultimately not all that fruitful. And in fact, when I used to do a lot of shopping, I sort of had two careers. I was a lawyer from like 1980 to 1990, and then I went to run a record company, and then in the mid 90s I came back and became a lawyer again. And in my first career, I did a lot of shopping, again, it was more productive then, but even then it wasn't so much more productive. You learned as time went on that bands or artists didn't get signed based on some lawyer sending it around or some manager sending it around. It really was pretty much other things. It just, the lawyer could fan the flames once they started. I mean, but it was really the artist doing the bulk of the work to get noticed and write great songs and get a presence out there and have people notice who they are. So, I just decided it was just such an inefficient process and not all that much, not really very rewarding, that I kind of just stopped doing it. And, but on the other hand, I have the luxury of representing a lot of major artists, so, if I don't shop the latest new band, it's not going to make a whole lot of difference in my life. But not to say we don't take on new artists, because we do. Well, again, if a band's got an offer, I'm a lot more interested. If they got really good management, I'm a lot more interested. Management is also very helpful in the shopping process. And I guess when you say shopping, if you include that broadly to mean like going out and playing, cutting demos, putting out your own independent records, if that's all part of the shopping process, then I guess it's more productive than to just the idea of me as a lawyer getting a demo and calling up an A&R guy and sending it to him. So again, I have the luxury at this point in my career of not having to listen to 300 demos and decide which ones are good, which lawyers are notoriously bad at anyway. I think part of my early success was based on the fact that I was kind of good at it. But it's ultimately a pretty inefficient process. And when it comes right down to it, I've decided now, at this stage of my life, I'd rather listen to music that I know I'm going to like than stuff that's unsigned, stuff that's more likely than not to be kind of crap. I mean, it's not a lot of great bands out there, and the chances of one of them randomly landing on my desk is kind of minimal. Mm-hmm. I have to say that up until recently, I was pretty much thinking it was hopeless. I'm not saying it's. I have an idea of what might happen. I'm not going to share it, but I have an idea of how things might actually turn out to be okay at some point. Which is not to say that I don't think things were ever going to turn out okay. My premise has always been people want to listen to music and musicians won't work for free. So somewhere in that equation, you're going to get some solution, but I for the life of me couldn't figure it out. And you'd sit there and read in Billboard recently or the LA Times the last 5 years, the record industry is not joining the modern age, and they're holding back these new technologies that consumers want. And I sit there and go, that's a bunch of crap, okay? First of all, these aren't consumers, they're thieves, they don't want to pay. And everybody's saying, well, you should monetize these new sources of technology. I'm a lot smarter than most people. I can't figure out a way to monetize it. And if somebody could, it would be happening. It's not easy or maybe even doable, but it's certainly not easy. And all these people that say, well, consumers want this and consumers want that. Consumers want free, okay? And free is pretty hard to compete with. And so it's a very difficult problem. But ultimately, look, the consumers are getting what they want. The more free they get, the less musicians get paid, the less good the music is. And then there's the other argument, well, musicians will do it because they love the music and it'll all be great because they'll do it because they love it. Well, even if you love it, if you can do it 16 hours a day, it's a lot better than if you have a 12-hour shift in McDonald's. You'll write a lot more music if you're not flipping burgers. So even if you love the music, the chances of making more and better music is higher if you're actually getting paid for it. So, I don't know.